When Rinehart first heard the approaching footsteps, he immediately put out the fire. Claire had known what those steps were, but was unsure if Rinehart knew. He simply stood there, looking at the door. Claire was thankful for the darkness. She began to move cautiously around the wall, hoping it would make it difficult for him to track her movement. Despite the flame being out, however, the smoke was still in the room. Her eyes stung and began to water. She held back the urge to cough, not wanting to reveal her location. But the smoke had filled her lungs. She began to cough up a storm and fell to her knees, hoping to find some air. Without warning, Rinehart had turned and grabbed her, forcing her to her feet.
You'll come in handy after all.
He pulled her across the room and through the door. She dared not fight him. She knew the knife was again in his hand, the blade ready for her throat, should she cause him unnecessary trouble. He pulled her along, running hard. Her body wasn't used to this, and would stumble as she ran, falling on occasion. Her falling caused him to stumble, but he stayed on his feet. He lifted her onto her feet each time, as if she was no more than a little girl's doll. Claire wondered what Rinehart's plan was, and if he would let her go to serve as a diversion, or simply kill her. She prayed for the Feminists to save her. They turned the corner, and were met with a group of soldiers, with all of their lights on Rinehart's face. Rinehart had stopped for a moment, as if the light had burned him, but then immediately shoved his back to the nearest wall, dragging Claire with him. She kicked and screamed, trying to break free, but he was too strong. As he got into a kneeling position, the knife had returned to her throat.
Kill this bitch if you don't let me pass!
The soldiers hesitated. The only sound was that of dripping water. To Claire, it sounded like the ticking of a bomb. Rinehart stepped away from the wall, using Claire as a shield against the soldiers. There was nothing Claire could do. Her feet were lifted from the ground by his arm around her waist. He stepped with her to the center of the tracks and motioned to the soldiers to let him pass.
Won't hesitate to cut her throat.
One of the soldiers had lifted her hand and turned it to wave the soldiers from behind, while keeping her eyes focused on Rinehart. By her uniform alone, Claire could identify her as a captain. The soldiers began to move back as the captain waved. This had frightened Claire. She was certain that they were going to let Rinehart leave with her, rather than stop him. It was at that moment that she heard a loud sound. She wasn't sure what it was, but that it attacked her ears as it bounced off the tunnel walls. Rinehart had stopped in his tracks and fell to the ground, bringing Claire with him. She felt blood from her throat spill down onto her breasts. It felt so warm as the winter wind blew at her. Claire cried out, choking as she breathed harder. She wondered, had all of this been worth it, to die right here, right now? Had she ignored Angela when they first met, she would be home right now, in her wonderful apartment, sleeping the day away.
Yes! blew his fucking brains out. He's not getting up.
Good. Get her to safety and have her checked out. And clean off his disgusting blood from her body.